So you have determined to start with investing and you have chosen for the broker DEGIRO. In this video I'm going to explain how you can invest in DEGIRO. I will show you exactly how to buy an ETF, how to buy a stock. But first, one question. Why do you would like to start with investing? So it could be that you perhaps would like to have extra savings. Instead of saving money, you can invest in ETFs, get a solid return of let's say 8% a year, and that for most beginners will be sufficient. And that's achievable. I will also explain that you only need 2 ETFs to achieve that goal. I will show it later in this video. The other one is perhaps you're young. When I was 23, I started with investing and I became financially free at the age of 30. However, it was not primarily via investing. Of course, it helps. And yes, the sooner you're in the market and the longer, even the better. I would recommend that not only start to invest, but also invest in yourself, especially when you're at young age. For example, you can start a side hustle or becoming an entrepreneur, because that will give you not only the skills to achieve much high returns on investment on your own time, but also when you're going to, let's say, hustle and you're going to build some more discipline, character, and also the mindset of, for example, taking ownership. Let's continue our tutorial about how to invest at DEGIRO. First, one thing about the cost. Invest with incredible low fees. And indeed, DEGIRO is not really expensive. It's not the most cheapest broker, but they are not expensive. Yet, I do wish to mention one thing about cost, and that is, if you're going to buy shares or an ETF, let's say you're going to buy a US stock, then the total commissioning is €2. For an ETF, only if it's in the core selection, then you pay €1. But most of the times, and you will notice that the cost is actually a bit higher. Furthermore, they have currency conversion of 0.25%. So what you should keep in mind always is when you're going to invest on a monthly basis with only small amounts of money, then the commissioning cost can become relatively very high. For example, I'm going to buy an ETF and I only have €1 a month for this single ETF. Let's assume I have 4 ETFs in my portfolio and I have €400 to spend, and I'm going to divide my €400 among all those ETFs. Then you get €100 per ETF. The total cost at minimum is €1, but I could imagine it would be slightly higher. Okay, let's say it's €1, then it means my total commissioning cost in terms of percentage is 1% of the buy I make. If I have an ETF portfolio of only 2 ETFs and I'm going to decide to invest €400 one month in ETF A and then the other month in ETF B and etc., then I am strongly reducing my cost. Let's say it's €1 to buy this ETF, both of the ETFs, then divide it by 400 and you get a total cost of 0.25%. If I'm going to buy a stock, let's say a US stock, and I have only $200 or euros that I can invest in this stock, then I'm going to pay a total commission of at least at minimum €2, which means again my transaction cost in total will be 1%. So that's actually very high, considering that an average annual return of 8% is average. And if you're going to already have to pay 1% for the first year or repeatedly once each time when you're going to buy a stock on ETF, then your actual annual return would be not 8% but 7%, or perhaps even 6.5 or 6%. So that's really on the long-term game. The cost will be significantly higher than you anticipated, and that's something that you should keep in mind before starting at DEGIRO. So how to begin and invest at DEGIRO? Before we're going to start, I would like to give you a simple tip, some recommendation from my own experience, and that is keep it simple. In all honesty, you will only need 2 ETFs to get an average annual return of about 8%, which is achievable for every beginner, and you only need a monthly deposit and nothing special, to be honest. The reason I'm telling you this is because when I started at the age of 23 with investing, I started with stocks. It was my, let's say, I had some passion for it and I liked it. And now, 10 years later, when I'm looking back, I would do it once over again. I would start with ETFs. First, build just a solid position of exchange traded funds. And then secondly, when I get more and more experience, I would actually start buying the stocks. Because everyone thinks, oh, I can beat the stock market. But it's pretty hard. It took me 8 years to become, let's say, an average investor, and then another 2 years to build in a system that actually beats the market consistently. I'm also sharing my DEGIRO portfolio in another video, showing you the stocks that I buy and why I buy them, and also how I select these stocks. But it's not that easy as you might think. So my tip is begin with only 2 ETFs, and you can expand and make a bigger ETF portfolio. I'm not going to explain it in this video, but in all honesty, if you just buy one world cap ETF, I mean an ETF worldwide with large cap stocks in it, and the second one is a worldwide ETF for small cap stocks, then you have a good combination of both large cap stocks and small cap stocks. The difference is that large cap stocks are from large companies and small cap stocks are from small companies. That's it. You only need 2 ETFs, and I'm going to show you which one in this video. Let's continue with DEGIRO. Alright, let's begin with investing at DEGIRO. When you have made an account, you've opened it, then you enter the main screen, which is market. Here you can see the balance, the portfolio, the available to trade, and your profit and loss. Well, just to get started, of course you need to deposit some money. You can deposit or withdraw, and first you need to link your bank account. Once you're going to deposit, you will see that you get an available to trade money, let's say 1,000 euros. At this moment, you still have nothing in your portfolio, but your balance is 1,000 in total, because the balance is the total amount of the portfolio and the available to trade. Here you can see some basic information about indices, winner and losses per index, and you can also see some latest news, top news. And I would strongly recommend just ignore all of this, because you will not need it. The only thing I think is useful just to show is when you go to the top 10 list, you can see the most held ETFs. This is looking for popular ETFs at DEGIRO. So not surprisingly, the most important, the most popular ETFs are the Vanguard All World, the S&P 500 and the iShares Core World ETF. So I mentioned earlier that you only need 2 ETFs to get an average return and to diversify your portfolio even globally. I would strongly recommend that you start with just one world ETF. Or if you do not want to have a global diversified portfolio, you can start for the S&P 500. Now there's a big difference between this Vanguard All World and the iShares Core World. And I strongly prefer the iShares Core World, which is the ticker of IWDA. And the reason is because it's as cheap as the Vanguard. The total expense ratio is only 0.2%, and it has much stocks in it. It's well diversified, and it doesn't really matter if you have, let's say, 600 stocks in your portfolio in the ETF, or you have more than 1,000. The iShares Core World has more than 1,500, and the Vanguard has around 3,000 or something. One thing for beginners to know is you can see that here it's noted DIS, and that stands for distribution. Here you can see ACC, which stands for accumulation. And the difference is distribution means that this ETF is distributing their dividends towards their holders, so to you, if you buy it. And the iShares Core World, in this example, it accumulates its dividend and it's reinvesting it back in the stocks they are following. This is something about the ETFs to know. First, when you're going to start, you have some basic options. You might consider, hey, what are your trading settings? And you can see I have for many years an account at DEGIRO, and I still have a basic account. And you can have an active account or a trade account, but I don't need it, and I'm doing quite fine. So I think you won't need it either. The difference only is that you cannot trade in options, and you cannot trade in futures, and you cannot go in short. Well, one great tip is you should avoid this, because you never need it if you want to become financially free. There are only 3 things important. One is that you get a solid rate of return, which you can achieve by ETFs. The second one is you need time in the market, the longer the better. And the third one is how much money you invest on a monthly basis. If you can afford to miss $1,000 instead of $500 a month, of course, that's better, and you get more financial freedom earlier. But it's not a necessary thing. Timing in the market, so instead of investing for 20 years, you invest in 30 years. That will make the biggest difference. Also, of course, the annual rate of return. But as I mentioned, it's not that easy to achieve a higher return with stocks. One last thing is about product settings. When you're going to start, you need to fill in some questionnaires. And when you're going to buy, for example, a share or an ETF, then you need to fill in this questionnaire. This is some basic questions to test your knowledge and experience. And as you can see, many of them I don't even have. Where are they? I do have complex shares, but I do not have complex bonds. I do not have complex ETNs or ETCs, which stands for exchange traded commodities. I do not have margin. I do not have options on equity. I don't have all these kind of things. Just keep it simple when you're going to start. And you should try to avoid losses. That's the first priority as a beginner, because you can always lose money, but it's very difficult to gain money if you already lost it. So you can only lose it once, and you can gain a lot of money on a long term. Now let's talk about how to buy an ETF and how to buy a stock at DEGIRO. At DEGIRO they have something, and it's called Product Finder. You can go to your portfolio, but when you start, it will be empty. I do have stocks, I do have ETFs in my portfolio, and once you buy one, you can see that the position is included into your portfolio. The first thing to find ETFs is via products, and you go to trackers and ETF. You can also see warrants, options, shares, but we go to ETFs first because we would like to buy one ETF, for example. Well, here you can see a lot of ETFs, and I very rarely used this product finder. But one thing that is interesting to know for beginners is when you go to commission type and you go to the ETF course selection, because ETFs which are in the course selection of DEGIRO, they will have zero commissioning. You do pay handling costs, that is the €1, and you do pay conversion cost, but at least you save €1. And for small investments, as I mentioned earlier in the video, it matters. It matters to save just €1 on small investments. Here you can see, because we have selected ETF course selection, all ETFs which are in the course selection. And you can see, for example, Invesco EQQ. It's one that I have. And let's say we would like to buy automation and robotics, for example. It's a team ETF, and then you have a lot of other ETFs. So here you can find, but you can also just search by name. In this example, we would like to buy the World Large Cap ETF, which I mentioned earlier. And I can just enter the ticker. I never use DEGIRO to find ETFs because, of course, like you can find it on the internet or do your own research. Now I know I would like to buy this ETF, and here I can select 2 different types of ETFs, but they are actually the same. The only difference is that this one is at the currency of the euro, and the other one is at the currency of dollars. And it depends on where you're going to buy, but most of the times, especially for ETFs, if it's possible, you buy in euros if yourself from European, because then you do not have the conversion cost. The EAM is that it's the stock exchange, which is Amsterdam, and you have also stock exchanges at Germany or whatever. Here we can see iShares Core World ETF. It's accumulating, so we know we do not have to receive any dividends, at least not as a payout. You can check your position, a quantity of 60, and you can see some information. Right, let's zoom out a little bit, and we can see, hey, this ETF is at all-time high, and we can see here that the last peak was at, let's say, 80, 87, and here again 87. So one thing could be, I just want to buy on a monthly basis. I don't care what the price is, I just buy every month. Just, let's say, the first Monday of each month. So I'm going to buy 82. Now, what I have to do is place a buy order. You can do it today. And if you do not care about the price, you can put it at market. You're placing a day order and you just type in, for example, 5. Then you buy 5 ETFs at the quantity, that's the quantity, I mean, at the price of 80. So that's 400 euros in total investment. However, let's say that we already bought at 80 and we just want to buy again when it drops, but we want to keep it simple. We are going to place a GTC. It's called Good Till Cancel. And this is in the English version, but you only have 2 options. So if you have a different language, you can see that you have a day order, which is buy now. And the Good Till Cancel is like an order that is putting in the system and will activate once the price has been reached. So in this case, we would like to have a limit, and let's say, because we have viewed and we say, I don't know, we're just guessing this ETF can drop to, let's say, 87. So here we're going to put in a different price, 87, and we have a quantity of 5. Then you can see the total amount of investment is below 400. Now I'm going to place an order. And here you can see the overview of the transactions cost. The estimated DEGIRO fees is only €1 because this ETF is in the ETF core selection. It's also noted here, this ETF is part of the ETF core selection. You can see the total order amount and the estimated fee. And if I'm going to confirm, then it will be coming here in the outstanding orders. So I'm going to confirm. And then there's a limit order at 87, and it will only be activated once the ETF is dropping to the price of 87. Okay, so buying the ETF is pretty simple. Let's now say we would like to buy a stock. And for example, you have made an analysis and you would like to buy, let's say, Booking Holdings. Great company, great long-term investment. You have calculated the intrinsic value. You have made some other analysis and you want to buy this stock. You can see it's not a great example because the price is pretty high, 3,500. It's not really for beginners. You can see that I have a position of 2. And let's say I would like to buy 1 more share of Booking. Again, I have to remove my face. Now, we can place a day order, but for stocks, it's more usual that you just buy at a certain limit. For example, you have based it on technical analysis, or you have determined the intrinsic value, and you are thinking, Booking will drop to 3,100, and therefore I'm going to put in a limit order of Good Till Cancel with a limit of 3,100, and I would say a quantity of 1. Then I'm going to place the order, and you can see the summary. I'm going to pay €2 of estimated fees, which is okay. I'm going to place the order. Let's assume that I have bought Booking now at this price. Okay, now Booking has risen to the price of 3,500. Let's say that I think now the stock is overvalued and I wish to sell it. Again, you can have a day order. It doesn't really matter. If you want to buy it if you want to sell it immediately, you can just go to day order and market. You can also say, I would like to have a stop loss, which means I only wish to sell this stock when it's dropping. So that's the stop price. So let's say that the price at this moment is 3,500 and I wish to sell when the price is going below the level of 3,300. Then my stop price is actually 3,100. I only have bought one stock, so I will put in the quantity of 1. I'm going to place the order. Oh, and I made a mistake. I have to put it on good till cancel because it is it will not drop in one day to this unless we have a crisis, but good till cancel order 3,300, place the order. Now I'm confirming and I will notice that at the outstanding orders there will be a stop loss for booking. You also have a feature of stop limit. Here you can enter 2 limits. The first one is the stop price of 3,300, which he had, and let's say it should sell within this range. It means if the price drops within this range, then I'm going to sell automatically. This is something you do not have to log in. DEGIRO, the system will sell for you. If the price drops below 3,300, but also below 3,200, then it won't sell immediately. So then the limit has been surpassed. So that's one thing. I never use this one. I do use the stop loss sometimes, but most of the case I just want to buy for the long term and I put in a limit. For example, I would like to buy when booking is dropping to 3,300 because I think that's the intrinsic value. Let's assume I'm going to buy one and I press place order. That's how to buy a stock, also how to buy an ETF. So you can see it's pretty simple to get started. So getting started at DEGIRO to buy an ETF or to buy a stock is pretty simple. You have to get some feeling with it and then just start. And when you go, by the way, you will learn by doing. So 2 things I would like to show. And the first one is the transactions. You can see the transaction history of your products. Here you can see the buy and sell orders that you have done in the past. In this case, you can see I have sold stocks of Genco Shipping. I have bought Intesa São Paulo as a stock. I have sold Mosaic. And continuing, you can see the whole transaction history over there. And lastly, how to see the dividends. You go to portfolio. You can see all the stocks that are in your current portfolio. You can see the trackers which are in your current portfolio. And you can see the upcoming dividends. This is the anticipated dividends for stocks that you have in your position in portfolio. For example, I have Comcast, I have Cresut, Sociedad, and they are going to pay me 120 dividends at the 1st of February. So that's just an example of the upcoming dividends. And of course, you can check the full report at the account statement. You can see transactions, the total fees, the deposits, and your dividends, all at your account statement. This is something I think DEGIRO can improve because it's not very clear what your total return is on your investments. Also, the dividends is not very clear. That takes some time to figure out, but it's doable. So that's a short introduction about DEGIRO, how to begin with investing, to buy an ETF, to buy a stock. I would recommend, if you're going to start, keep it simple. Just don't wait too long. Start with ETFs, with investing, and pick the 2 worldwide ETFs. And you can also make a bigger ETF portfolio if you would like, or you can just focus it on America with S&P 500. Of course, you need to know a little bit of information about the exchange traded funds you're going to choose and why you start, but don't wait too long because use the first couple of months as an experiment to gain more knowledge and experience. And if you do that, then and you focus on the next step, then in 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, you will thank yourself, and also your children will be very happy with your investment decisions today. Thank you for watching. Keep following for more information, and take care.